Hello, welcome back to Clickbait, the lightest darkroom you've ever seen, because today we're going to be developing a film. I used to develop black and white films a couple of times every single week, because before digital, when back then we were thinking digital is never going to take off, it's never going to be anywhere near the quality of a film. Goodness me, no. Little did we know. If you went out anywhere for the day, any event at all, you took pictures on your film, you wanted to develop them straight away. You couldn't just go and plug your memory card into the computer, sync your phone with iCloud and look at it on the screen straight away. You had to go to the darkroom and get busy with the chemicals. God, that's heavy. So there are a few things which are less convenient than an SD card, which we're going to play with today, but we're going to go and develop the stuff that's in the back of this camera and make it into some pictures in the next few minutes. Now, I've basically been raiding the loft because I haven't done this in a long time, so this may well be a learning curve for you. This is very much a reminiscence and trying to remember how it all works for me. There's a few things we need. First of all, we need a camera, which has shot some film. Film's in there. Then we're going to need a dark bag, because not in a full-on dark room. Obviously, film is light sensitive, so we have to put it into the tank inside the dark bag. This is a really handy little accessory which I completely forgot I had, because there's two ways of opening a film. You can either turn it upside down so the little nodule is pointing towards the desk, bang it hard on the desk and the bottom will pop off, or you can go film canister opener-y, like a cracking open a tinny or a bottle of beer or whatever, and get in with one of these. It's like a bottle opener for films. Then, of course, we need a film tank. They generally get called Patterson tanks because Patterson were the company that made them. They come in a variety of shapes. This is a pretty ancient one, which goes back to, I don't know, it's got measurements in fluid ounces for 127, 120 and 16mm film on it. This is a Patterson Universal Mark II, Model 2 even, which I'm going to say dates probably from the 1950s or 60s. All still there though. And these are the more modern ones. These are the ones I'm going to say you can buy today, but this has been in the loft for a long old time. That's a double tank. I'm only going to develop one film today, so I'll open this one, which cost £4.25. I don't know how long ago that was. Patterson System 4, which I think is a kind of a very 1990s or late 80s tank, but they all have one thing in common, or a couple of things in common. They work in exactly the same way. They are light proof for a start, a big main lid that opens up, an agitator which you can spin the film with through the lid, and one of these rolls of clicky film, which I'll come to in a second, and of course a second opening. This is seized up after all the years. A double opening in the top so you can pour liquid in the centre, which is light tight, and then a second sort of ring around that so you can pour it out again. And a third little opening down there, can you see me there? So you can squizzle your film and agitate it in the chemicals. So that's a single tank, which I might just use today because it'll use less chemicals. This is a double tank. Everything in that, apart from being dusty and old, is exactly the same. Slightly different design in terms of the way that the centre part of that, you pour into that centre funnel and pour out to the edge just there. The only different series, you've got two film spirals on there, sitting on that. And the way you work these things, I'll do a close-up of this in a second, is somehow in the dark, it's a while since I've done this, you find these two end points here. It's like finding the end of a roll of sellotape. There's a lip just there, you can get them both matched up, because these rotate, and you slide your film into there, and then there's little ball bearings, which you might be able to see in there. They catch in the sprockets of the film, and you wind it left, right, left, right, left, right, up, down, and that cranks it onto the entire spiral, and the film winds its way around there. Then you drop it in the tank, seal the tank up, and then you can come out back into the light again. Job done. Well, part of the job done. Then you come onto the chemicals. The other thing you're going to need is a thermometer, because these are temperature dependent, well, the developer really is, and the hotter it is, the faster it develops, so you've got to try and get it to the right temperature. I'm using Ilford stuff just because I've always used Ilford stuff and quite like it. ID11 is the developer. This is stage 1. I'm buying it today in a sachet of powder. So a sachet of powder gets mixed up into a bucket of chemicals. The only thing I can't find today, which I really was hunting in the loft for, were more of these bottles. The last time this bottle was used was 1993. and this was for AccuStop, which is similar to this, which is stop bath, because you keep a record of how many times you've used something, and then you extend it by a certain number of minutes or seconds depending how many times you've used it. So you don't use it once and throw it away. It's not completely environmentally unfriendly. So you start off with a developer, that makes it develop. Then to stop it developing, you put in stop bath. That kills the process. And finally you've got to make it light safe and stable once it's outside. Oh, and that's where your fixer comes in. And then you dunk it in here, and that stabilises it and means it's light safe and happy. Oh. And that's quite a lot of that. So I'm going to go and find some bottles of gin or something to empty so I can pour my used chemicals in and save them for next time. Now, if you are going to use a double tank with only one film in it, do still put both film spirals in there, because it'll stop the film spiral riding up on the central stalk, mast, whatever you want to call it, spindle, and not being fully immersed in the chemicals, because that's a possibility. Because if you're only doing one film, you're only going to put enough chemical for one film in. So still use both spirals. And don't forget the lid, because when you're shaking it and agitating it, you might want to inverse it, give it a tap, get the bubbles off. So make sure the lid's there. Right, before I start, this is very dusty, so I'm going to give this a quick wash so it's not disgusting and doesn't get dust into the chemistry. Now, judging by the fact that this is still in a box with £4.25 written on the top, with an instruction book sat on top of it, I suspect I have never actually used this tank. This is a brand new unused tank. Maybe I'll stick it on eBay instead. Right, the tank is now shiny, clean and dry. It's quite good to have it dry, because otherwise it will be snaggy and horrible. I'll give you an idea how long it is since I've done any black and white film developing. When I found the box of stuff up in the attic, which is here, I found a coin in it. I thought, oh, I've found £1 or €1. It's not. It's 10 francs, or 10 franc cents, whatever you want to call it, from I don't know how long, 1991. So yeah, that was 1991, that was 1993, so I guess it's about 27 years since I've developed a roll of black and white film. Right, let's see if I can remember how to do it. So first of all, rewind the film. So you push the little button on the, where's the rewind button? On the bottom of the camera. Hopefully you'll know how to do this already. Wind the thing back. This is the first film I've put through this old Chinon CX in absolutely years. The first one since I had it serviced and repaired. That's a couple of the photos I took when I was doing the review of this camera. And a lot of pictures of my feet and the sky, because I've been, oh, Chinon, click. Oh, oops, I've just wasted yet another of my 36 rolls shots of film. Dum-de-dum, doo-doo. That sounds like he's off the thing. Right, so you pull that, hooray, right. I can live over there in the dry. FP4 Plus 125 ASA film. So I'll demonstrate the Kasnikata. That is how you pry it off, top or bottom, doesn't matter. These are our vintage Patterson tanks. When finally I make a set for this this channel, I'll put them in the back. They're quite cool, aren't they? So everything you're going to want. Oh, that tiny little mix. I think that's from a colour photo set I've got upstairs. I worked out in the end it was far cheaper and a lot less hassle if you just post your colour film away and get it developed. You got free film normally as well. Right, so this is a double zip bag, so, and the zips are snagged naturally. So, to make it extra light tight, it's like a little backwards t-shirt for someone who's been decapitated. So, we're going to put all bits of everything in there. So we've got our little stalky mast thing, spindle, our pair of film rolls, black and white roll of film, and the lid, and of course the opener. We'll separate it all out first of all and put it inside the bag. And then really hope I can find it all in the dark afterwards. I'll keep hold of them first. It's a while since I've done this. And the zips go opposite directions so that you've got a fighting chance of keeping the light out. Let's take my watch off because I don't want to snag anything with. Oh dear, the elastic is not that impressive anymore. So let's hope there aren't any prize winning photos on this roll of film. but I'm desperately going to want to keep because I suspect this may get a little bit fogged when I open it. By suspect I do of course mean guarantee. Now before you start, just locate everything with your hands in the dark. Okay, here we go, here goes nothing. So, prying the bottom of the film off, that comes off easy. Then out comes the roll of film, sorry, the film from the metal canister. And you've got the end. And I've found in fingers the two lumps, the nubbins on the end. And this has been in the camera a while, and so it's making it a bit awkward because it's curving kind of the wrong way at first. And you want to make sure, as you do this, that the film doesn't kink as it goes in. Otherwise you'll get like a bit of film that touches the spindle next to itself. So then you'll get like a bubble of no developer on there. There we go, it seems to be going in there now. Or not, as the case may in fact be. I've just realised what I've done wrong. It's a bag that light can't get into, well, in theory. Right, so now I have a pair of scissors in here. Now I've got to locate the end of the film again, which I've lost. Yeah, the thing I forgot to say earlier was that you need to cut the end of the film off. It won't go through the sprockets properly. Now this is a little bit of caution and a little bit of pre-noughties health and safety common sense, as in do it carefully, don't cut your own fingers off. Ideally you want to try and do it between the sprockets, and that's easier said than done in total darkness, I realise. Right, let's try this again. It does sometimes take a few goes just to get it lined up right. Oh god, that feels like it's come off. Oh, it's come off the sprocket. Damn it. Yeah, pull it around. Once it's through the little kind of nubbins on the end, pull it around as far as you can to make sure it's well and truly into the groove. Right, finally got to the end. That was hard work. Harder than, trickier than I remember it being. So then you snip off the end of the film, wind it all the way on, and pop it into the tank. And because I'm using a double tank, put the second spool, film spool on top, then put your lid on. Done. Because I was trying to snip that off and not lose my fingers in the dark bag. Also you have to snip off the last roll of, or frame or so from that spool in the centre. You can tear that off as well if you want to in the dark. Doesn't matter which. And I can demonstrate now. Now it's out in the open. This thing just comes up like this and lifts the end of the canister off. So yeah, if you want to reuse them, it's better to use the knock method, because if you're reloading your own rolls of film, then you don't damage the end, because the opener does kind of curl it a little bit. Right, now then, I suspect, unfortunately, that these elastic wrist arm things are so knackered that this has light polluted the entire roll of film while I was loading it. So I suspect this is going to be not much use, but we'll develop it anyway, because this is a how-to, and right, that's more important than the result of the film. Right, so now's the bit we start playing with chemicals, which means the tea goes somewhere else so you don't splash chemicals in your tea and drink that by mistake, because that would be bad. And the chemicals smell pretty bad. I'm in a room with a dog which has got terrible flatulence, so I'm not sure which is going to be worse in a moment, because the dog does smell pretty awful, don't you? Right, the three chemicals we've got. ID11. The instructions are inside the box. It's a 2-part powder that mixes up 1 litre, and you can't really split the powder, so you've got to mix up a litre, even though we don't need that much at the moment. Now, on the bottom of the canister, it tells you how much each roll of film will use. 35mm or 126 will take 290 millilitres. If I was developing a 127, that takes 370 ml, and if I was developing a 120 roll of film, it would take 500 millilitres. And those film spool things are actually extendable, so you can pull them out to take different sizes of film. They've got different click settings in them. So what I'm going to do, this stuff is reusable, as I said earlier. So once I've done it, I couldn't find any of the proper bottles, so I'm going to mix up a litre of Indian tonic water and keep it in there, and then I'll use the amount of that I need each time. And the information sheet on the ID11 box is so thorough, it's incredible. It tells you the development time, it tells you the times for future films so you can reuse the chemical and extend its working life. It tells you the temperature to develop at, which is 20 to 24 degrees, and also, if you're using it in cooler conditions, how long to extend it for, and it'll graph just there. So as you sort of drop down 10 degrees, you'd add actually 32 minutes if you're dropping 10 whole degrees down. If you're just dropping, if you drop 2 degrees, you'd add maybe 3 or 4 minutes depending on exactly where you are. Also, different rolls of film have got different development characteristics, so it'll tell you the different length of time to develop it on. So yeah, it's really, really thorough. The only thing it doesn't tell you is push and pull processing, which is something we'll get into another day. Now, in the old days, before we had ISO buttons where you could just spin it, it's a bit dark, I'll bump the ISO a bit for my next shot and then put it back down again when I step outside again. You had to do the ISO was the same across the entire roll of film. And if you had a roll of 125 but you needed a roll of 400, it wasn't ideal, but you could just tell the camera you're shooting at 400, trick the light meter to treat it as if it was 400 film, and then when you got to the developing stage, you would develop it for a little bit longer. Those scales aren't on here, but you can find them online. And there are actually scales in here saying each time you reuse it, how much to extend it by. So the first time you use it, this will take FP4, it tells you to do 6.5 minutes. So the next time you add 10%. The third time you had 20%, the fourth time you had 30%, the fifth time 40%, and it even gives you guidance as to how long this stuff will keep. And in powder form, this will keep indefinitely. If you want to sort of stock up for life, in case you ever stop making it, you could do. I'm sure Ilford would thank you for that. Now let's get the tray. Oh, the tray is there because the boiler is leaking. Quite a lot. The plumber is due in about 3 days' time to put a new boiler in. But until then, so first of all, follow the instructions. Now we're going to mix up 40-degree water. Let's see how hot the hot water is off the tap. If not, we're going to have to go mix up something from the kettle. What, are we going to get 40 out of this thing? We might do actually, I'm pretty confident here. This is a 600 milliliter flask here. .39 degrees. I'm going to get 1 degree out. I'm going to call that okay to do. Dog, that's awful. Oh. Sachet A going in there now. Sachet B. Again, give it a good old stir around. Top this one up to 400 ml. So we've got a litre between the two flasks. Ideally, you'd have a litre sized flask to do this in. This is not the correct way to do this, I have to say. So if I pour this through here, I'll decant it back and forth a couple of times, and that hopefully will do the trick to give everything a good old mix up. A trick we used to use to stop everything going cold was to get a bowl of warm water of the temperature that you are going to be using. So we can start off with the developing stage, because it's going to take 6.5 minutes, didn't it? Yes, going to need a timer. So, God, in the old days, you had to have a separate stopwatch. Can you imagine that? Clock, stopwatch. Now I want 300 milliliter, well, it said 290, I'll give it 300 to be generous of this. Whoops. Now for future use, the way you would do this again is to stand this in a bath of water slightly hotter than the water, the chemicals you're going to be using, until it kind of transfers the heat across. Right. Let's get this open, pour it in there, and hit start. Now what you do, give it a swirl around, and then a bump, getting air bubbles off the film itself. Put the lid on, and you start inverting it, giving it a good old swish around. And here's where you really hope you put the film on the bottom spindle. Now, stop bath, we need to mix this one up 1 to 19. We're going to make up 750 millilitres. This had AccuStop in here, which is a very similar chemical before. So we want 40 millilitres of this to the other 600 and something. I did the calculator bit off camera. I was going to do it sort of, oh, look at me working out on camera, but then I realised I was needing a stopwatch, so I did it off camera beforehand. Now I need something sharp to puncture that. Generally, a key is good for this kind of thing. 40 millilitres. Okay, this goes up in graduations for 25. That's really unhelpful. So I guess about that much. It also says we want 20 degrees centigrade, so we're going to go kind of half and half with the hot and the cold. Now this looks like a particularly unpleasant sample. If you took this to the doctor, you would be unwell. Every minute or so, give it a shake, give it a bump. Don't get distracted by doing other stuff for the camera. And finally, while that's all doing its business in there, we can mix up, oh my word, that's heavy, some fixer. This is mixed up 1 to 4, so a quarter of it is fixer and a quarter of it is water. Sorry, 3/4 of it is water. I'm good at math. Well, I need to give this a quick inversion. There we go. Wow, this is a stinky one. So I want 250 millilitres of this stuff. Hypam. Where's the gradient? I can't see it. Oh, what a guess. Bingo. Wow, this one really smells acidic and kind of vinegary. 350 plus 250 is 600. Another 400 millilitres and we're there. Another quick inversion. Minute and a half to go. I will get 300 millilitres ready in the jug, ready to go. And have this one ready to catch the developer when it comes out. And we'll have this one ready with 300 millilitres of stop bath. Man, that looks unwell. So 10 seconds, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, I was counting too fast, 2, 1, 6.5 minutes up. That one's the ID11, that's going in there. This is the stop bath. So we give that a swoosh around in there. Doesn't take long, only 30 seconds, so it's fairly rapid. And that should have stopped any chemical processing happening in there. Now the reason we've come out to... Shush! Very noisy drains in this room. Okay, well, the reason we've come out to the dog room, or the utility room, or as I like to call it, the scullery, so we can pour water through here so we don't dilute the fixer too quickly. Some people like to do a water rinse stage between developer and stop bath, but I prefer to go straight in with the stop, just to stop it and arrest the chemical reaction immediately. Now this sits in here, again we swirl it and we bump it, and we can save the ID11 for another day. And this stuff takes, they say 2 to 5 minutes on the instructions at this dilution without hardener in the water, which is fairly vague to be perfectly honest. So we'll give it, that's at a minute and a half so far. I'll put the Hypam back in there as well, not Hypam, sorry, the Ilfo stop. And so I used Ilford stuff because that's what I've always used, very forgiving chemical. You can go a little bit over or under with the temperature and the time and get away with it basically. I'll do a little bit of Safety housekeeping. These are chemicals, they are potentially dangerous. Don't drink them, don't get them in your eyes. If you do, there are safety instructions on all the packets which you should read before you start, which are generally rinsed with a lot of water and then seek medical assistance. But having said that, in 30 something or 40 something years of developing films, I've never had an incident or known of an incident developing black and white film where anyone's actually been hurt. So, you know, bit of common sense, you should be fine. I bought all this stuff online. It's easily available. Ilford, I think they were getting a bit close to shutting down at one point, but now black and white film photography in general has really come back into fashion and popularity. So it's now really easy to buy this stuff. You go on Wex Photographic, buy on Amazon. There are lots of independent photographic retailers where you can buy all this stuff, shop around, you get a good price. I forget where I bought this stuff from, but it turned out because of the cost of delivery, it's cheaper to buy somewhere where it's slightly more expensive for the chemicals, but the delivery was free, so it worked out cheaper than buying somewhere where the chemicals were cheaper but they charged a lot for delivery. Because this is pretty weighty for a gallon of fixer. It doesn't really matter if you leave stuff in the fixer too long. If you leave it in there not long enough, the film will continue to go dark and be light sensitive for too long, or forever, until it goes pitch black. I think in this particular case it's going to be probably fairly black and fairly fogged. I'm not really expecting to see anything because that light bag I think was leaking an awful lot of light, so we shall see how that goes. Right. Now a moment of truth. Let's see how good or bad this is, because finally we can open this, give it one more rinse through. You can get kind of rubber hoses that go straight from your tap and force water through the centre, which gives them a really good rinse. Right, let's see how this looks. Yeah, I was right, it's pitch dark. Yeah, it's a nothing. Changing bag just leaked pure light. The entire thing is just solid, well, blackness really, because obviously it's inverse, so when you get light on the film it turns to black. Now the final thing you need if you are doing this, in the final rinse, just add 2 drops of fairy liquid to break the water tension, so when you take it out there, run your fingers down it like that, and then it will dry streak free. Grab a couple of clothes pegs, hang it from a clothesline from a light fitting, somewhere it can just drip dry. If you want to be impatient, get a hairdryer on it, but keep the hairdryer back a bit because it will warp the film otherwise. Okay, so this was a bit of a blowout. I tell you what, the moment I felt the air moving around my wrists and my arms in that bag, I could tell there was light just flooding in there and that the entire film was going to be just completely ruined. There was no getting back from that. From that moment, I knew it was a wasted effort. I could trick you right now and throw up any number of rolls of film that I developed years ago and say, oh look, there's some great photos I took yesterday. But I'm not going to trick you. This failed because the bag was knackered. But never mind, I've got the chemicals, I've got the stuff out the loft, I've got the camera waiting, I've got other cameras upstairs I need to go and do some reviews on. So I can shoot some more FP4 with those and, you know, see how we go with the next roll of film, which I'm sure will go far better. Well, thank you for watching. I'll put some links in the description below to where you can maybe buy some stuff on Amazon, because that's the easiest place to get stuff for everyone. But if you look at the pictures on Amazon, then go and find the stuff on your local camera store. Support your local independents if you can. If you can't find somewhere locally, hit the Amazon link. I'll see you again next time. Get out, get shooting, whatever the weather. Shoot some film and we'll develop it together. Send some better pictures than I just ruined.